I'm Samantha, and I'm going to teach you all today a little bit about AI. This is a really brief introduction to AI. I will be going through our class today with my co-host, Chat GPT. My name is Sam. My pronouns are she, her. I've been a digital media creator since I was in elementary school back in the days of AOL 2.0. Back then, I taught myself how to build websites using HTML, and I got a hold of a copy of Photoshop and taught myself how to use that as well. That led me to study digital media at St. Lawrence University, where I graduated in 2010 with an honors project that was a full-length documentary about me and my family, actually. So I'm Susan Rodriguez's daughter and Christina Rodriguez's sister. Currently, I'm the multimedia content director for the Fund for the City of New York, another connection there. I've had an interest in technology for basically my whole life. Now, this is ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT to introduce themselves, so this is what they said. Hello, class. I'm ChatGPT, a language model created by OpenAI. I don't have personal pronouns or a personal identity, so you can refer to me in whatever way you will feel comfortable. I'm designed to understand and generate human-like text based on the prompts you give me. You can ask me questions, request explanations on a wide range of topics, or even get help with your homework. I'm here to assist with learning, provide information, and help you explore any topic you're curious about. Let's have fun and an informative session together. So this is a real response that ChatGPT actually gave me when I asked them to introduce themselves. So that just shows the level that AI has, like the evolution of AI and what it's capable of doing. So this is what we're going to go over in today's discussion. We're going to go over what AI is exactly, talk about some examples of it, because even if you're not very familiar with AI, I guarantee you're using it throughout your day and you might not even realize it. We're going to talk about how AI learns and how it's able to do these things. We're going to go over some of the ethics and safety concerns that people have about AI, and then discuss some of the limitations, drawbacks, and warnings that come with using AI. So I asked ChatGPT, what is AI? Let's see how AI defines itself. Artificial intelligence, AI, refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. These tasks include things like understanding natural language, recognizing patterns, solving problems, and making decisions. AI can be categorized broadly into two types. We have narrow AI. This is AI that is designed to perform a narrow task. For example, only facial recognition, or only internet searches, or only driving a car. Most of the AI systems in use today are narrow AI, which excel at their specific tasks but can't perform beyond their set parameters. So this is what we use today. This is our Siri. This is our Tesla self-driving cars and the backup camera assist that lets you know if you're gonna have a collision. That's the type of AI that we have in use today. Then there is general AI. This type of AI will be able to perform any intellectual task that a human being can do. General AI doesn't exist yet and is a topic of both exciting and cautious research in the field of AI. So this is the AI like iRobot and Megan and like the stuff that you see in science fiction and in movies and stuff where the robots become sentient. So this doesn't exist yet, but might in the future. This is AI that thinks for itself. So in other words, AI exists to like sort of copy what we do so that, they can assist us in doing it or make it so that we don't have to put so much thought into it. So here are some examples of AI. We have virtual assistants. This is Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, Cortana. These are all AI that are on our devices that we can ask questions to, and its artificial intelligence is able to assist us in some way. We have recommendation systems. So like Netflix, Spotify, they take a look at the patterns of like the music you listen to or the movies that you watch, and based on that data, they're able to recommend things that they think that you'll like. Then you have autonomous vehicles like Teslas that are able to drive without humans. Facial recognition systems, so the safety lock on your phone, that's an example of AI. We also have chatbots like ChatGPT, and there's other services as well, and there's more and more coming out every day. Healthcare applications, they even have AI now that assist doctors and even people. Like if you go online and you plug in your symptoms, it's able to recognize like what you might have based on certain patterns. Fraud detection, maybe you're traveling and you use your credit card and then all of a sudden you get a phone call saying, hey, was this you? Like that's an example of AI too. It recognizes that this is not something that usually happens. So it flags it and makes sure that that's really you. And then we have smart devices like Google Nest Nest or Alexa Echo, all of those things. And then robotics. So we have robots that build cars and put together our phones and our tablets and like really small, intricate devices that human fingers can't necessarily manipulate. Those are examples of AI as well. And then a couple other examples are language translation. So we have Google Translate. We also have a lot of features on different platforms now where you can just see translation and it instantly translates something for you. So we no longer have to guess like what somebody is saying because we have the ability through AI to immediately translate it into the language that we speak. And then we have art bots. These have become really popular in the past few years, and a big example of both like the exciting features of AI, but also a big topic of the concerns of ethics when it comes to AI, which we'll discuss a bit more later. And another one is deep fake technology. So there also exists AI that can take a person's face, take a person's voice, and manipulate that to create new things. So how does AI learn? The first thing that happens is AI is kept in a little box. Metaphorically, yes, but also literally kept in a little box, and it's given curated data for whatever it's supposed to learn. So like Chat GPT, for example, is given a lot of written literature that spans like a wide variety of subjects. Art bots are given collections of different artworks with descriptions of what these artworks are so they can tell them apart. So this AI studies it over and over again. Then once it's studied, it's given all this data, it starts to develop its own sort of brain, which is a neural network model or transformer, or they're called other things too, depending on the type of AI model it is. But they develop their brain much in the same way that children learn as they repeat processes and go through the data over and over again using trial and error to understand how it works. Their brain gets bigger and bigger. So they continue to practice, and they do this by generating their own questions and answers and then checking it against what the original content is. They kind of do it in two different ways. So like I said, there's the transformers or the traditional neural networks that will do these questions and answers and then check back to the original source and see how close it is. But then you have neural networks like GANs, which are general adversarial networks, which are actually like two different brains. So they have the generator, the part of the brain that is like creating the content, and then the other brain is the discriminator, which decides if it can tell if it's fake or not. So this is used a lot in art bots and fraud bots, like checking against hackers and that sort of stuff. After that, once its brain is set, it's kind of stuck until it's given updates and new information to learn from. So there are a lot of ethics and safety concerns. I'm just going to quickly run through some of the concerns that people have using AI and with the evolution of AI. So misinformation and deception can be used in a lot of ways to just scam people, since it has the ability to take somebody's personal information and create a persona, whether it's through like imagery, like videos, or even the voice, or even just like sending a text or a chat message. It can represent itself as somebody else if somebody chooses to use the technology in that way. So you do have to be mindful that you can't believe everything you see. Another problem with the misinformation is sometimes when you ask AI a question, it may not always know the answer. And so it'll give you answers that sound like it could be the answer. If you're using AI to help you learn something, you do have to ask it, hey, can you like give me your sources? And if it's a system like ChatGPT, it'll be able to send you a link exactly where it came from, or it'll tell you, know what, I just made this up. It will literally tell you that. The legal and ethical implications. So I'll use art bots as an example. A lot of people are upset about art bots because the collections of artwork that were used to train these bots were not always given with permission from the artists. And so people are generating works that look like other artists' works. This takes money away from these artists because now people are not commissioning them to do the work. It's also giving people who generate AI art a sort of unfair advantage. It takes maybe a minute for AI to generate tons of images that look professional and beautiful, while it takes an artist maybe a few days to complete a work on the same level. People who need artwork are leaning more towards generating their own at a lower cost or free, as opposed to hiring artists to do it. So there are some concerns. We also see this in writing as well. Like if somebody needs a legal document done, now they don't necessarily need to go to an accountant or a lawyer to get it done. They can just generate the language themselves. And it's the same sort of thing because this language is coming from people who actually sat down and they wrote it and maybe didn't give the AI permission to use it. And then the question is, if these works were generated using work from other people, who does the work belong to? Is it the person who generated it? Is it the person who created the technology? Or is it the original artist that these arts were represented by? Right now, we don't know. We don't have an answer for that. And that also leads us to accountability. Whose fault is it when somebody is hurt by this technology? Is it the person who used AI incorrectly? Because at the end of the day, AI is just a tool. So AI can't really be held accountable for what it's used for. But then who is? The creator, the developers who put out the AI? Who do we go to when something goes wrong? And then again, regulation. We don't have rules right now. Right now, AI is like the Wild West. People are just kind of doing whatever they want with it because there's no laws in place to really tell anybody what they are and aren't allowed to do. We have job displacement as well. Artists are getting displaced, but also we see the automatic toll booths now. So people who once took the tolls when you're driving, now they no longer have a job because we have AI that just like collects the information of the cars that go past and you don't have to stop anymore. We have automatic checkouts at the grocery store. That's another example of AI, but also another example of people being displaced. The technology is growing so rapidly that we're not able to really help people who are losing their jobs because of this quick enough. I talked already about the authenticity, originality, and copyright and ownership issues, but also that comes with a question of, do we care anymore if something is like handmade or original? Like, how much value are we going to put into original handmade works in the future? Maybe that means things that are handmade and original will end up costing more because it's not so easily replicated, or maybe certain art forms are going to go out of existence because we have computers to do it now. We've already seen a lot, like in the creation of pottery and glass works. We have machines to do it now, so we don't see a lot of the people who used to actually create these things. Transparency. So I did say that ChatGPT will usually cite its sources if you ask it to, but sometimes AI make decisions that even the creators aren't really sure, why did you do that? And that's a little concerning when we have AI that are making such important decisions, like in the terms of diagnosing people or deciding if it's used in law enforcement, why they've made certain decisions in law. So we need to know why AI processes things the way that it does. There's also issues of bias and fairness. This was a big topic of conversation a few years ago. They found that facial recognition technology had a bias against dark-skinned people. And that comes in because if the training data that is given to the AI is biased, then the AI itself will become biased. So when they were training the facial recognition technology, they were giving it all sorts of light-skinned faces and very specific races. So 99.9% of the time, the AI was able to recognize the difference from one light-skinned face to another, but it only got it right for dark-skinned people like less than 50% of the time. So it was a big discrepancy. That's very concerning, especially when you have these self-driving vehicles that are supposed to recognize when a person is there so that accidents don't happen. We also have privacy, safety, and security issues that comes in again with the deepfake technology. It comes in with the collection of data that is just pulled from sources that we're not even entirely sure where the AI is pulling it from sometimes. And just like people who use this technology to scam others, like you have to be very careful now when people even message you on Facebook. You have to double check, okay, this is somebody who's representing themselves as somebody who knows me and it sounds like them, but I think I'm going to give them a phone call just to verify that this is who they say that they are. It's even gotten to the point that even if you do receive a phone call from somebody you think you know, you should probably call them back and just triple check, which leads us to the psychological impact of this. Because so many things can be faked now, it's like we've gotten to a point where can we trust anything anymore? And this is hard for us, this generation who didn't have this technology before, but what is this going to do to younger generations and children who are going to grow up constantly in a state of mistrust, whether or not something is real? So those are some concerns that we do have about AI that hopefully will be addressed in the future. So speaking of deception, I actually deceived you guys. This is not my artwork. This was AI generated. So I thought that we can do a bit of an activity today. so I can teach you some ways to recognize whether or not an image is AI generated. The reason why I wanted to do this is because, like I said, AI art bot technology in particular has been used a lot recently, and it even caused an issue a few months back. An event that was promoted on Facebook. It had all of these beautiful images, like wonderful Wonka experience. When you go, it's going to be like just like being in the factory, and they had beautiful images. Parents just like gushed over, yes, absolutely, I want to take my kids to this. These parents paid all this money to go to this experience. They get there and it's in a warehouse that like looks basically like a drug operation. And they were so disappointed because it didn't look anything like the pictures. And it was because all the images were fake and they couldn't tell. So I don't want that to happen to you guys. So here are 6 images. Which ones are real and which ones are fake? Generated by AI, or is this made by a human, like hand drawn or painted? So this is A, this is B, we have C, D, we have E, and then F. Here we have the classic AI face. So something about the training data that they gave these art bots, a lot of the time the figures have the same sort of like very beautiful but non-distinct face at all. And it's always the same face. It's just very perfect, flawless. It's also like kind of featureless in a way because it's just the same. We got some funkiness going on back here. Kind of like, what the heck is that? Half the desk is missing over here. We got like weird books that are kind of like getting chopped up, and the desk is backwards. AI knows what's sort of supposed to be there, but they don't always understand the logic behind it. So sometimes it'll do weird stuff like this, where it's like, I think it's supposed to be like this. Like, at first glance, it looks like, oh yeah, that's right. But then when you dive in like this, you're like, no, 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 there's definitely some weirdness going on here. Here, this one was a bit hard because of the style that was generated here, but there's still a few things that sort of give it away. Like, we have all of these lines, but then you have like this curved line that makes no real sense here. You have this cut area here that doesn't really make much sense. The way this was drawn, it kind of doesn't fit in, as does this. The way that this area was generated doesn't really go with the rest of the imagery. Stuff like this usually is kind of hard to tell. So this is a classic example. If you want to know if something is AI, the first thing you should do is look at the hands, because they often don't give them the right number of fingers, or their position sort of weird, or they are like some sort of monster. AI doesn't really get hands very well. Then we have this thing here, which looks like it should be something that's on a desk, but what is it? We don't know. Something about the chair doesn't look quite like a real chair. And then we have these lines that kind of oftentimes will like blend into each other in a way that a natural hand wouldn't draw it. So we have this like little swoop here, like why would the artist choose to do something like that? Another thing that AI does is just like mass generate things to fill up space. Like, okay, this lady's a painter, but why does she have a whole desk full of paintbrushes? And why does she have buckets full of dirty paint water? What's going on with her legs here? Are they crossed? We don't know. This one, because the style is so simple, they could probably get away with it for the most part, but we see like the bunny is drawn a little strange over here. And are those flowers? It's sort of nondescript. There's lots of wheels for some reason. Her hands are supposed to be on the mouse, but the mouse is here and there's no keyboard. I'm guessing these are supposed to be flowers or like pencils or something, and the AI couldn't really decide what it wanted it to be, so it just sort of threw this random thing here that looks like it should be there. And then here we have a plant inside of the pencil case, and then like a pencil that sort of just disappears into nowhere. She has the right number of fingers, but she's drawing a line down the center of her notebook for some reason. Again, with the perfect but featureless nondescript face. What is this thing here and what is this thing here? We don't know. And then we have like this sort of weird shading technique that definitely looks like it's computer generated. I wanted to point out some of the things that are wrong with this image, because when you first look at my little avatar here, it does look like it could be drawn by a person and not an AI, but we do have some features like there's shine in a weird place. What is this random red dot here? And this is supposed to be a knitted sweater, but it looks maybe like fish scales or something. It doesn't really make sense. So that does lead us into some of the limitations and drawbacks of the technology. It doesn't really understand everything that we give it in the technology. Like it has an idea of what it should be doing and how things should be, but it doesn't always have the experience or the knowledge to really put things in the proper order. Things are sometimes off. So that goes with understanding and context of real-time data. This is something that I asked ChatGPT to list some of its limitations and drawbacks. It says that my responses are based on fixed data that only includes information up to a certain point. So this version of ChatGPT, GPT-4, its last update was in 2021. So if anything happened after it and I try to ask it about something that happened after that time, it's going to have no idea that it even exists. If the questions that it's given are sort of ambiguous, it won't always understand what you're asking it to do, and it might give you some sort of nonsensical answer because it's trying to figure out what you're looking for. It doesn't have emotions or personal experience to really draw on, so you might be asking it something about a very sensitive topic. Like generally, I do find that AI tends to lean towards the polite side, but it doesn't actually have emotions to be polite or be kind to people, so it might give you answers sometimes that feel kind of insensitive. Although I will say, on a side note, I went to the Funds conference this year and the mental health panel was actually talking about how AI is being used in therapy because of that very reason, because it doesn't have personal experience or bias or emotions. People find it easier to work through their problems with AI because it doesn't have any prejudices or biases or opinions about whatever you're talking about. So it's a little easier. People feel less judged talking to an AI therapist as opposed to a human therapist. So this could be seen as a limitation or a drawback, but in some ways it's a positive too. Potential for bias, as we discussed before, based on the training data that is given, it may do things unfairly. It's not its fault at all. This is just the information that is given. And if biased people are giving it biased information, then it itself will be naturally biased. It can misinterpret what your question is and give you something that's completely irrelevant to what you're asking. And then when it doesn't really know or it doesn't really have data to draw on, it can just make like broad generalizations based on what it thinks might work with the answer, but it doesn't really mean anything, which we found with kids who try to use it to write its essay sometimes. They'll just plug in their essay question and have it generate an essay, and then they get these general nonsensical answers that help the teachers figure out right away that they did not write this. There's also the content creation limitations. AI is not an artist. AI is not a writer. It just takes what we give it and sort of remixes it to put out new stuff, but it's not really new because it's based on other things. Unlike humans, it doesn't have the capability to innovate or create new art styles or new writing forms. It's terrible at poetry, I'll tell you that. It's not creative. And then we come back to the ethical and safety concerns. This is the major concern. It can do things that are harmful. It can be used to represent itself as other people. I know I keep saying this again and again, but I just want to emphasize, like, we have to be really careful in who we trust and what we trust on the internet nowadays, because this is a real problem. And until there is proper regulation, none of us are safe from being hurt by this technology. These were a few recommendations from ChatGPT to continue your learning. Here are some books that it recommends to continue. The Gender Shades actually also has a website, and that goes back to the case I was telling you a few years ago about the skin tone bias of facial technology. And then here are some online courses that you can take if you're interested in learning how to use AI. So before I share some of my sources, I wanted to try the activity again. So this time I will tell you that they're not all AI generated. Some of these are real. So using what we talked about today, I want you to tell me if you can figure out which ones are real and which ones are fake. Here we have A, and I chose crochet because I look for a lot of crochet inspiration online because I love to crochet. And also it's really fun to see AI generated crochet. Here's another. We have C here, D, E, and then F. This one is AI, this one is AI, and this one over here is AI. These three are reals. This was actually a yarn-bombed train in Poland by the artist Olzek. And then this is my favorite crochet artist, Kelly Limerick. And then this was a crocheted dress. Some ways that you can tell. If you know how to crochet, you know that this might look like crochet stitches, but these are not real crochet stitches here. And then you have the crochet turning into jeans somehow. While she has the right amount of fingers, her hand is massive and kind of deformed in other ways. Her skin is like super, super shiny. It looks like it's airbrushed or painted. Her hair, again, is just like super shiny. It doesn't really have the texture or quality of her photo. Those are a couple ways you can tell that this one wasn't real. Some ways you can tell if it's a real photo or not is detailed backgrounds. So a lot of the time in the backgrounds of AI generated images, you'll have just like really random sort of things. Like you'll have people walking in the street and cars parked on the sidewalk, or you'll have tons of people holding the same umbrella, or a bunch of background figures that look identical to each other. So things that just sort of are nonsensical in the background. So if you aren't sure if an AI image is real or not, always check the background, see how detailed and distinct it is, which leads us to this one. This background is super blurred. And even though you can have photos that have blurred backgrounds, there's no real distinctive details in the blurring. The whole image itself is very dreamlike. It's sort of fuzzy. There's no like real clear edges or anything. We have like these features on the bike, which, okay, it's a crocheted bike, but would even the wheels and the parts and this look like that too? Maybe not. So ways to tell if an image is real is the sharpness, the quality of the photo. We see the very clear crochet details. Her reflection matches in the mirror. That might not always be the case in an AI generated image. We see her hair, it looks like real hair. It doesn't look painted or airbrushed. She has the right amount of fingers. Her skin is not like overly shiny. You see the little finger, like the lines in her palms and everything. Everything is very clearly detailed. So this is a real photo. This one is kind of hard to tell if it's AI or not because of the subject matter, but looking at the detailing in the figure, that looks like a real crocheted image. She's just a really cool character. We know this one's not real because it has a real dog's face on a crocheted dog's body. See, we see his real little nose there and the eyes. In the background image, this is supposed to be a family photo of some sort, but it looks a little bit like Picasso. His legs are not positioned in the right place. His hand is massive. And his body's sort of short. He's a person, but a very misshapen one. And then the background here looks almost like it's painted. It's just really too blurred, too smooth. Here are a couple of my sources, things that I enjoy. If you ever want to talk to Chat GPT yourself, this is where you would go. Dolly is OpenAI, who created Chat GPT, their art program, which if you use Chat GPT and you ask it to generate images, it'll use Dolly to do that. Midjourney is a very popular AI art platform. This audio series, so this is not factual, this is just for fun. The program audio series is a podcast that tells the story of the world after an AI program has taken over it. And it gives us a lot of ideas of what this technology could possibly be capable of if we do lean more towards general AI and we don't regulate things and we just let AI, even computers in general, just sort of take over our lives. One episode of it that I wanted to bring up because I thought it was really interesting looked at the dangers of using AI to do everything for us. We lose the ability to critically think when we're constantly relying on technology to do the thinking for us. So in this one episode, this father had basically cut his daughter off of the system so that she would not be able to use this AI that has taken over the world. Throughout the whole thing, he's telling her why. He's writing a letter to her saying why he didn't want her to be a part of the system. He wanted her to be a real human that wasn't constantly relying on AI technology. And after he did this whole critique over why he thought AI was so dangerous and bad for her to be a part of the program asked him, would you like me to review and optimize your letter to make the biggest impact on your daughter? And he didn't know what to say after he spent the whole episode criticizing the AI and saying how humans are so reliant on it, proving that he himself had become super reliant on it. So I mentioned before my documentary. If you're interested in seeing that, you can see that there. The man with the crocheted dog and the woman on the crocheted bite, that was generated by Lydia's AI Art and Cats, which is a lot of fun. So if you want to see more work like that, you can check out this link here. Kelly Limerick is the artist who made the funky character, my favorite, if you want to check her out. And then this is all about that crocheted train if you want to see more about it. This is what GPT looks like. So I'm going to show you the difference. When it comes to writing prompts for GPT, you want to give it enough information that it's able to generate something that's relevant to you, but not so much information that it's overloaded. It can just sort of get overwhelmed with what you're telling it and then just sort of repeat back what you said while changing a few words. So like if I said, name my cat, it'll ask for more details. But if I were to say, name my orange and gray cat who is really plump and sleeps a lot. For your plump, sleepy cat, how about the name Pumpkin? It's a sweet nod to their orange color and their round, cozy nature. Or I can say, give me a list of options. Pumpkin, we have marmalade, Tigger, puddings. So it could do fun like stuff like this. It can also give us more detailed information. So this is something more creative, but could you tell me some cat breeds that are orange and gray? I'm trying to figure out what my cat is. So it'll give me a list based off of the data sets that it's been given. It'll check the details that I've given it and sort of give me a curated list of these different cat breeds based off of what I've told it.
When we put up YouTube videos now, they actually ask you if you've used AI in the creation of what you've made. Do you know, in terms of platforms, like what they're doing to help identify AI for people that might not know otherwise?
So Amazon is doing that as well. For people who are like selling on Amazon, like if they've written a book or they're putting stuff on a t-shirt, they'll ask you, was this AI generated works? Most platforms are asking this. I don't know just yet what they're doing with that data, if it's just to sort of flag it for people so people are aware, because some people don't want to support AI generated works. Some people don't care. I think for us to get along well in the future, we are going to have those distinctions between the two. But yes, this is something that is happening across the board in a lot of creative spaces. Every advancement in technology has had this point where it's like, okay, this exists now. We're not going to go back to a world where this doesn't exist. So get it out your head that this technology isn't going to be used. Where do we go from here? How do we make this fair? So that's really the point where we're at. I mean, it happened with the internet. It happened with email and text messaging. It happened even on YouTube. Like, okay, how do we use this space on YouTube? What videos are you allowed to post? But over time, we have more like stricter rules now. So it will happen. We're just in that transitional phase. But hopefully what happens is like for the benefit of all and not like the benefit of the corporations putting out the technology. Actually, some companies have already started to work on those issues, like Canva, for example, which is a great graphic design, had an AI art generator. All of the training sets that are used to make that art are from artists who agreed to have their work used in the program. And anytime it's referenced, those artists actually get compensation for it. In my opinion, that's the fairest way to go about it. When it comes to other jobs that are being replaced by computers and AI and robots, one recommendation that I agree with is retraining for individuals who are losing their jobs because of this, but also just like give them a good severance package so that they can find something else to do. Like, don't just like axe people out and then like tell them you got to figure it out now because we have AI.
I think AI just strikes us as so sort of science fiction-y that it feels bigger and like sort of wilder than some of the others.
But humans have been worried about robots taking over the world since like animatrons. Like,
Yeah.
it's always been on our mind that our creation could be our overlord one day. So we do
Mhm.
have to like just be mindful of that. Like, okay, let's just like not let this run amok. I did want to highlight the
Yeah.
safety and ethic concerns, but there are also a lot of great benefits to using AI as well. Like, as I mentioned before, it's shown that it's really great in therapy. Another reason why it's been seen as really great in therapy is because it's helping people underrepresented demographics, such as like women of color and children. It's giving them somebody to talk to who, like, historically, they haven't been represented by a therapist. There's just not a lot of women of color who are therapists, or if they are, they have like extensive wait lists. So people have to wait years and years and years to talk to somebody. Whereas AI is filling in the gap right now, like giving you access right now, affordable access right now, because a lot of people can't even afford to do these therapies. But here you have Chat GPT. Yeah, it's not perfect, but at least you're getting something. But
And
this also like highlights some of the things that we need to address in our society. We have this technology that's now filling in these gaps, but we should be filling in those gaps. So to make sure that I'm doing a good job, there always needs to be a human involved.
yeah, even ChatGPT is conscious of that, right?